There are several cases that stick with you forever, and this is one of them.
So many of us pictured our own children or our little sisters or someone when something like this happens.
It's one of those ones that defies understanding.
On a cold winter afternoon, 5-year-old Stephanie Boller leaves her Beaver Falls home and walks through this neighborhood to a friend's house. She asks her friend to go see a movie, but her friend can't go out that day. Stephanie walks away from her friend's home. It is the last time anyone sees her alive. Despite an intensive search, Stephanie isn't found. 10 months later, people walking through Bradys Run Park spot a child's winter coat with what appear to be bones sticking out from the sleeve lying in a grassy area. They have found Stephanie. Now, 38 years later, the case still haunts investigators who are determined to prove who killed Stephanie. I'm LeVar McBride, and this is Cold Case, Beaver County.
You got 3 people of interest still say, I do. 3 people of interest, then you got that blank face.
That's why nobody really knows if she is dead or alive.
He was set free, and he was set free to go kill.
We've never gotten that one break. We've never gotten that one break. You know, we will though.
A kindergarten student at Beaver County Christian School in New Brighton, Stephanie is a petite child with long, light brown hair and green eyes. Her mother, Robin Sell, calls her Steph. She is seen frequently by neighbors walking to and from the 15th Street home where she lives with her mother and stepfather. Stephanie's disappearance on January 8, 1977 shakes the community. Some neighbors are afraid to let their children play outside unattended. Despite a typical 3-day waiting period to search for a missing person, police and the community act quickly. More than 300 volunteers comb the area looking for her.
Stephanie's was a little different because it was winter and the age of the child. It was common sense. A child that age, do you really want to wait 3 days? Your instinct says, should we, in the cold weather? And we put out locally a county alert and a description later we got, and any more information through the county system that was initiated during that period of time. It proved to be beneficial. A lot of information kept coming in, and the average person during those days had police monitors at home. And the citizens really got involved in this case with Stephanie.
We did a pretty thorough search of the area. If you know anything about Beaver Falls, where 12th Avenue is the last place where the little girl was seen, from there up toward the Pleasant View section of town, it's a heavily wooded area and it's a very steep incline. And I remember being a part of the search team that searched that area, kind of arm to arm with one another, coming down over the hillside. And in January, and it was very cold, I remember, people were slipping and sliding.
Stephanie's disappearance felt more personal for some people involved in the case.
This case, even though I wasn't with the DA's office at that time, I was a police officer when this happened. What sticks out to almost anybody who was working the cases, any kind of police work at that time, was she's just a young little baby girl. So many of us pictured our own children or our little sisters or someone when something like this happens. It doesn't lessen a crime to an adult. It's just the fact that these ones really get under your skin.
Stephanie's case was just a little different than any other case I worked. For 10 years, I was a deputy coroner, probably investigated close to 2,000 cases passed through my hands. Most of them wound up being natural death, but a lot were trauma cases. And you try, as a coroner, you try to compartmentalize that as a case and evidence and not let that get to you. But Stephanie was a little bit of a different case because I had personal involvement in it. When Stephanie first went missing, I was part of an Army Reserve unit that met in Beaver Falls, and we happened to be meeting that weekend. And a member of the family asked us if we would, as a unit, go up and help with the search for her. She disappeared on Saturday, this was on Sunday. And so our whole unit went up to Mount Washington and moved through there with everyone else, searching, prying open trunks of abandoned vehicles, going in abandoned buildings, going through cellars and everything, looking for this little 5-year-old girl. And so it became personal then, because all of us were young men, including myself. I had a little girl, a little bit older than her, so it became something very personal.
With no viable leads, months passed by with no trace of Stephanie, until men combing this area of Bradys Run Park for bottles discover Stephanie's remains. She had been hit in the head and died of a skull fracture.
I remember they brought the remains to the police station. I was on duty that night, still as a patrolman, and Russell Cheetah was our police chief. And Don Mahoney was the lieutenant at the state police barracks, local here. And they brought the remains back, and they were going to do a coordinated press release at the time. And I recall mistakenly thinking, we all thought on the City of Beaver Falls Police Department that we still had a homicide investigation that was ours. And Don Mahoney reminded us that, no, you have a missing person, that I now have a homicide, which was correct.
The amount of time that has passed severely hinders investigators.
The problem was that you had about a 10-month gap between the time she went missing and the time that they found her remains. And the remains, as you can imagine, there wasn't a whole lot left. And so there was no physical evidence at all from the crime scene or from where the remains were found. So that's what made it frustrating, because we had nothing other than she came up missing up on 12th Avenue, and then they find her remains. So it was a very difficult case.
Beaver County District Attorney Anthony Barash says no one has given up, and they continue to search for the missing facts in the case.
While this is an old case, this is far from cold, and what I mean by that is that over the years we have focused in on a suspect. But I would emphasize at this point only a suspect. We do not have enough facts to bring that person to answer for the death of Stephanie. And that's why we're filming this, because we haven't given up. Somebody out there knows what happened. We believe the suspect did confide in somebody over these years, and we're asking those witnesses to come forward. Not for any district attorney or for any police officer. We're asking that person to come forward for Stephanie, to give us the missing information that we long for and that we don't have.
The police who worked the case have never forgotten Stephanie or given up hope of solving her murder.
There are several cases that stick with you forever. And this is one of them.
It's one of those cases that stands out because it's one of those ones that defies understanding. Why would someone wantonly kill a 5-year-old girl? I mean, talk about innocence lost.
When you see the picture of the young girl, you kind of want to get involved, whether you want to or not. And I still carry pictures. And I carry articles. With Stephanie, all you see is a small girl in a snowsuit. And then to see her remains in Bradys Run Park, it's a heck of a comparison. But if anybody out there has any information that could provide useful in solving Stephanie Boller case, I know everybody would appreciate it. And at least we would have a satisfaction knowing what happened to the young girl. I shouldn't even say young girl. It's a young baby, actually, and that's the hardest part. Adults, you get used to getting hurt and seeing them. Children, it's a different story.